Should I join? Trying to see if I can join it.
Select stream. This one, Intro to Godot workshop.
Where would I join it? On
Streaming?
Discord or something?
Oh, it's working. Wait, let me get my phone.
How do I join the stream on YouTube?
Yeah. It's on YouTube.
Okay. The fuck do I type? GMC Universe.
Everyone on the stream can hear you. No, try. It's on CISSA. It's on CISSA.
Oh, CISSA Universe.
Yeah.
You got this thing?
Okay. Can you see if you get audio? All right. So 1, 2, 3. Good.
Is it
Yeah?
delayed? But I can, yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's good.
I was thinking out because I know. I feel like that's one of just anyway. What about later?
All right.
So they can hear you, but it's like
Is there a mic, or do I just have to shout?
you can pick it up, but this isn't a mic. I just don't have it.
This looks broken.
Am I speaking? So you're not muted now.
It's hello. Test. Nothing.
It's on, right? It's not muted.
I don't know.
Now it's
it
muted.
shows yellow. Okay.
Hello?
Hello. Can you give me? Oh, maybe because maybe because the audio for this is off.
Like that? Why didn't
Oh,
you
yeah,
have like a
it's 'cause
normal
this
mic?
is
No, but this is laptop audio that's off. The room mics shouldn't be good. Oh, I don't know what that headset does.
No, now before it's
Hello.
muted.
Hello. It's not set.
You can see the screen.
It says.
Where do you play?
Hello. Oh, does that work?
Thanks.
Hello. Can you?
Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
Probably cool.
That's not clipped off.
No, put it in your pocket.
Oh, okay. Because if I have this. We can clip this on.
Yeah, something like that.
Do this.
That's what I meant.
Hello. Test 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Is there a mic work? All right. Can I get your attention? All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Godot workshop here with CISSA and the GMC. Just to start off, I would like you to go to this link and download Godot. Don't worry, it's a very quick download. And I would also appreciate it if you could go to this URL to download all the files we're going to need for this workshop. That includes art, and there's 2 folders there, one called resources, one called pre-made scenes. You need to download both of them because we're going to use all of them for this workshop. So I'll give a few minutes in case there are some people who are late. Just in the meantime, I need you to download the latest version, not the .NET version. There's going to be 2 options. Don't download the .NET version. Download the latest version of Godot, and then download all the files in this link. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm definitely. Special sites. That's up to them, right? Like, when it looks at it, design device unit, 100 crore. There's not a character up that way. I don't know when I would make it. Or like if you don't go there, don't fast, just add a line. Like same I got it. So, here I'm really I think I'm both and yeah, he quit. And then he quit. If they could actually take it. Oh, yeah.
One, two, three. Everyone, just to confirm, I want you to, once you enter the link at the bottom, you'll come upon this page here. I want you to download both of these folders, all right? Not just resources. I want you to download everything there, all right? We will start at, what the hell's the clock? We'll start at 6:40.
I don't know, just pop the URL. The URL somewhere. Do you need game plan server? I don't know. Just make everything. I don't know anything about it. Just really nobody would, every time it's I'm not super comfortable. Yeah. I like to for the project, for the coding farm, then like I don't know. I'm telling you. Think about it.
Josh just said 3 categories. Alex Braun is too like
Alright, for those who just come in, I need you to download Godot through this link here and use this link to download the assets for the Godot workshop. We are going to move on, so if you, I would recommend you take a photo now. If not, we have my friend Jun here who's writing down all the links and all the stuff we're doing along the way so you can catch up. Alright, does anyone if anyone has any issues, you can just raise your hand. I've got a lot of friends here who can come and help you. Yeah?
You know if there's more tickets for game jam still?
Unfortunately, we had the job earlier today, and there's still a lot of people who really want it, so we might discuss, but right now there's no confirmation on it. It's quite hard because the timeline to get like the food for the event day has already run out, so we can't get any more funding for that. We've already made all the orders.
If we don't eat.
Yeah, that's what's being discussed right now, right?
Yeah.
If it's just online,
yeah.
would be the thing. But we have to, we're gonna contact, we'll talk to like the guys at CISSA and like have a discussion about that. But right now I can't guarantee anything, unfortunately. So.
That's it.
Okay, just update on that, I guess.
Yeah. If anything happens, there will be mentions in the Game Makers Club Discord and the Game Jam Discord. So just stay tuned there, but I don't know if I can guarantee anything. I'm sorry. Okay.
I'm the only one that knows
Alright. There's been a few new people coming in as well, so I'll just repeat it one last time. Make sure, to everyone who just came in, make sure you go to this link for the assets we're going to use in the workshop. You can take a photo now. If not, there's links on this whiteboard and the whiteboard over there. But make sure you have all the files downloaded, because I'm gonna start. That's already 6:45, alright. Okay. What? Oh yeah. No, that's Test. All right. Can I grab your attention? All right, brothers and sisters, welcome to the Godot workshop. Now, if you haven't downloaded this, we have the links there and there on those whiteboards. And if not, what? Yeah, if you haven't gotten it, you can go through those workshops. If you have it all, then we can start with the workshop. So yeah, my name is Thaha, and this will just be an introduction into Godot. Is that work? Okay. This will be an introduction to Godot. Alright, so just to start us off, I briefly want to cover, why are we learning Godot? What are the pros and cons? Why, most people use Unity when they start game development. The benefits to using Godot are mainly from this, it's ease of access. Everyone here downloaded Godot today, right? No one had to download it in advance. When it comes to Unity, it'll take 3 hours to download it first, and then an hour to start your project every single time. So it's quite simple. It's also growing in popularity. There's constantly more and more people branching out and making games in Godot. And there's constant improvement, which can be annoying sometimes, because I had this whole workshop ready a week in advance, and then on Tuesday there was a major update, so I had to go back and tweak a bunch of things. And lastly, it's open source, which means it's completely free, and the source code is available for everyone to edit, which makes it really optimal software to use and cheap as well. So I'm gonna open Godot and I'm gonna guide you through the interface. Now, once you open Godot, you'll have something that looks, okay, it's over there. Something that looks a little bit like this. Where the heck is it? Okay. Something that looks like this, right? It might seem a bit small here, but it'll generally look something like this on your laptop. You'll have this big area here, and this is where all your projects are. It should be blank for you if you haven't touched Godot before. And then there's this tab over here, which is just about adjusting details of the project, doesn't matter. Up there is the most important part. Because over here, you want to click this plus button at the top left of your screen to create a new project in Godot. So I need to click that, and this pop-up will appear, asking for a project name, project path, and whatnot. Just name it whatever that's suitable. I think new game project works for me. The path, just choose whatever works for you, whatever fits for your file management system. And for the rest of this, you can just leave it default. You can leave it as forward, you can leave this as Git. There's no need to edit any of that. So you can go to Godot on your screen and start the project right now. need to change.
Let's just say if any point in problem just raise their hand.
Mhm.
To them.
Yeah. All right. Mhm. All right, we have attention, attention. One. Can I grab your attention? I don't want to do it with the mic. All right, so if anybody has any questions, you can ask. I have a ton of friends here who's going to help out, and they'll go straight to you. All right? If at any point you're stuck, just raise your hand. Now, is everyone on this screen? All right. So I'll just guide you briefly through the interface and what each screen means. All right? This center part is the game view, where you'll have your game and you'll be able to manipulate things around. This is what you're going to be looking at most of the time. And over here, this over here is the file management window, right? This is where you store all your art, store all your resources for the game. Up here is the scene tree, which we will delve into more later. It sounds a bit confusing for now. And over here is the property window, which we'll also explore a bit more later. But just familiarize yourself with this general, layout. Up here, there's a few tabs. For this workshop, we're only going to use the 2D and script tabs. You can just click 2D there, and you'll see, it has the same line, but there's no Z dimension. So I want to start off by just dragging all the workshop material into here, right? So the two folders that you downloaded just now, I want you to drag it. You can just open up your File Explorer and drag it straight into this file management window. All right, and I'm gonna do that as well, so you can just look around. You can just follow along. Although I will admit, I myself forgot to download it. Bear with me for a sec. All right, gang. So y'all should have these. These were the workshop assets that I had everyone download earlier. And very simply, you can just drag both of these folders into this window here, and it'll load straight into Godot. Very simple, very straightforward. I'll give y'all a sec to do that, and then I'll move on. All right, so the first thing I want to do in Godot is to show you guys how you can create a character. So I'm going to go through the process here. I'll explain myself along the way, but it is going to be quite complicated. I'll explain myself at the end, but I want you to very closely follow me, all right? listen to what I'm saying and follow what I'm doing on the screen. So, let me go back to Godot real quick. Over here, we can start by clicking this button, other node. This is how we start to create our first object. This is how we're going to create a player. And I want you to search for a node called character body 2D, right? I just typed in CHA and it opens up here already. Once you have this character body 2D, you can just click this create button down here, right? And again, if there's any questions, you can just raise your hand. Yes? Yeah, this is that character body. Click create and it will load up. Alright. So, now that we have this character body 2D, I should just briefly explain what the character body 2D does. It handles the physics, collision, and movement for your player. But the thing is, we can't really see any player yet. There's no art there and whatnot. And if we run the game, nothing really works. So, what you should do now is we can click this plus button here, and I want you to add another node, right? This time we're gonna type in sprite 2D, and we can add this sprite 2D node here. This sprite 2D node handles art, and so it allows you to put art inside your game. So let's click that in. And as you can see here to the right, there's a bunch of stuff that pops up in the property window. I can scale it, make it a little bit bigger. And you can see there's a ton of different parameters I can play around with. There's a ton of different values I can tweak, I can adjust. There's texture, I can open this and there's a bunch of random stuff. Very simply, to add the art into your character, you can just open this resources folder, open character, and I have a PNG here, character.png. You can just drag that straight into this empty slot and then let go. And now I can click the middle mouse button to pan along and scroll to zoom in, and you can see the character here, right? Alright, are you done? You shouldn't need to complete it. But as you can see, I can go back to a lot of these parameters here, right? And I can start playing around with them. And I can start seeing what they do. I can click this flip switch on and off, and as you can see, the character gets flipped on the horizontal axis. I can also click flip Y, and flip Y, flip V, and it flips on the vertical axis. Once you're done playing with that, you can bring it back to its original form. And I want you to go back to this character body 2D. As you can see, there's a little yellow icon up here, right? There's a bit of an error. If there's a major error, it'll be red, so don't worry. It's just sending out a warning, hey, there's something you might have missed. So if you click on it, it'll say, this is what the issue is, right? This node has no shape. Consider adding a collision shape 2D. So that's what we're going to do next. We want to add a collision shape 2D. So make sure you click on this character body 2D so it's highlighted. Click the plus button, and we want a collision shape 2D. There you go, that's the right one. Make sure you choose collision shape 2D and click create. Now, there's no more warning on that, but there's another warning on the collision shape 2D. Well, what could be the matter then? If you click on the warning, it'll show a pop-up, a shape must be provided. I'll bring your attention back here to the properties, And as you can see, there's all stuff, shape, disable, one-way collision, a bunch of random stuff. But it asks for shape, so let's go to shape. What does this actually do? If you just hover over it, it'll tell you what that property is about, you know? It'll give you a little bit of a description. So, this is the shape used for the collision shape 2D. And that tells the character body 2D. Remember earlier when I said it was about physics, movement, and collision? It tells it what's the shape of the character, what's the shape of the player, to enable it to say, oh, now I know I'm touching the wall. Oh, now I know I'm touching the floor. Right? So we can click, over here you see a little area that says empty. If you click on that, it'll bring up a drop down with a bunch of different options or a bunch of different shapes. Since the player is a bit tall, we don't have to be pixel perfect. We can just select new capsule shape 2D, and we get a little oval that surrounds the player. Alright? You feel me? So, we can adjust this oval to kind of just surround the player a little bit. I'm just going to move around these dots at the side to tweak it. I can even like click in the middle and start bringing it down. And that's good enough, you know, that surrounds the player. And so now, let's just save this real quick. You can click Control S to save. I would create a new folder. And I'm going to call this folder Scenes, right? Scenes. I'm going to click OK. And then I should name this the player. I shouldn't just name it a random node. So I'm going to name it player and click save. So now I have this saved. And if I click this play button, you'll notice this pop up. Don't press X, okay? If you press the play button, it's going to show this pop up. I don't want you to select this. I don't want you to select current. I want you to click cancel. We're going to get back to that, but we're not going to do it right now. Instead, I want you to click this kind of like movie icon, and you'll see a window show up, which has our game. And as you can see, we have the player all the way to the top left, just barely visible as a smudge here. Alright? Do you see the player all the way there at the top left? Yeah, that's that. So, the player is kind of just stuck there. So there's one last thing that I want to do, right? And I want you all to pay attention because this one can get a bit confusing. Make sure you click back on the character body 2D. Actually, a bit more intuitive. I can right-click this, click rename, and just name it player, right? It's more intuitive. It's a better way of organizing your notes. And then I want to click this script button up here. Attach a new script. This is when you can add programming to all these nodes. So I'm going to click that, and I want to make sure that there's a template, and it says character body to be basic movement. And I want to turn the built-in script on. Okay? Make sure this is on, make sure this is set to basic movement. Alright, everyone? From where?
Too fast.
Okay. I'll slow down. That's my bad.
We lost you from the castle shape.
It's okay. If anyone needs to catch up, just raise your hand. Helper will come to get you. Yeah? If you want everyone good? Everyone vibing? Everyone on top of things? Yeah? Sorry, I forgot a bit faster. All right, does anyone want any more time? Does anyone need more time, or can I move on? Do you need more time? Okay. All good? Y'all feeling good? Y'all got a dinner plan after this? Nice, all right. So, from here we can just click create, and it'll show the script. I'll dive back into it later, but what I want you to do is click on 2D again, save the scene, and now if you click that moving icon again up here, you'll see the player fall down. Alright, so you can start to see some of the physics, some of the movement. Let me really quick with this. If you press play while pressing your arrow keys, no, that's shoot, wait, never mind. That was the wrong play. If you click this moving icon and press your arrow keys, you can kind of see the player move a bit. Yeah, just slightly. All right, class. Let's move on, right? So now we've got a player. All right, wait. Can I get your attention, everyone? All right. Now we've got a player. And we have our character created. And I really want to just delve into what we did, right? What did we just, okay, that's my house. What did we just do? And I'm going to go through every bit of what we did, explain each part. So I want you to pay attention, right? First off, Godot is organized into nodes, right? These were the 3 nodes that we just used. The character body 2D, the sprite 2D, and the collision shape 2D. Now, nodes are kind of like the Lego bricks of Godot. Each of them has a specialized purpose, but when you stand them on together, you can start to make like a bigger machine, you know? So each individual one has their own purpose. For example, the character body 2D calculates physics. It accounts for collision and it handles movement. Alright? It has a very specialized set of characteristics. The sprite 2D displays images, right? It only does that. It's a very specialized set of characteristics. The collision shape 2D, a bit more unique, but it defines an area that's used for other nodes. As you saw just now, it didn't really do much on its own, but it set the area for the character body 2D to know when to collide. So, each of these things on their own, you know, they're specialized, but individually, they don't know much. But as a collective, when you take the character body 2D, which is the first node that we put in, if you remember, it was the node all the way at the top. and then you put in this sprite 2D and this collision shape 2D into the character body 2D, you get what is called a scene. A scene is a collection of all these nodes. Just now when we saved the file, I asked you to name the folder scenes, because that's where we're going to put all the scenes for this project. Well, I'm going to pull up a screenshot of what we did earlier. You can see the player, the sprite 2D, and the collision shape 2D. Up here, it's in, it's up there, it says scene. So this is your scene tree, right? It's a tree of all your scenes. At the start is the character body 2D, and the sprite 2D, and then the collision shape 2D. Over here is the name of the scene we're on. We can open up a few tabs of multiple scenes, and we save this as a player scene, so up there you'll see player. We can also click the plus button next to that player to create a new scene. The first node that we chose is called the root of the scene. It's the root node of the scene. You can only have one, and all other nodes are children of that root node. But this is how Godot functions. You have these specialized individual nodes, all with their own purposes, all their own characteristics. You put them together into scenes, and each scene is a new object, is a new machine of your doing, and you can combine these scenes together to create a game. Alright? Now, there are a lot of nodes in Godot. This is just, a few of them. And, unfortunately, I won't be able to delve into every single node here today. So, something that's really important, a really important resource for you to know and for you to use is the Godot documentation. Over there is all the nodes, all the properties, everything about them. Also, since they constantly update, they even updated, after I finished this presentation, so I had to go through everything again, because the update was just Tuesday. It was like 2 days ago. It's really important to use the documentation as the latest source of information. You can just search up, I want to know about the marker 2D node. So you can just type that in, and as you can see here, that's the Godot documentation. It's a very good resource. Down here as well, you can use Reddit, that's also a good resource. If it's a very old Reddit post, it might not be accurate anymore. But that's the gist of it, It's like people say with programming, 90% of the work is just Google searching, knowing what to Google search. And that's true with game development as well. Alright. Are y'all locked in?
Yes.
Let's start doing some practice. So, first off, if we look back at our Godot project, you'll notice, you'll notice that the player looks kind of blurry. And so what we have to do is kind of fix the pixel art, right? And there's this, I'll go through it with you as well, but we just have to edit a few settings to adjust it to suit pixel art. So I'm going to go to Godot. That's Discord, that's not Godot. I'm going to go to Godot, and we can click up here, follow along, because this is just like changing some settings. Click on project all the way at the top, then project settings. This will show, and it showed in my other monitor. Let me just drag it over. It'll show this window here, this pop-up window of all the different settings. You want to scroll down to somewhere over here. Not this rendering. This rendering. Under this rendering, you want to click on textures. And over here, you'll see default texture filter, right? I want you to change this from linear to nearest. All right? Capish? All good? All right. So once you do that, do you want me to stay here for a bit, or I'll stay here for a bit longer? Just go to project settings. It'll open up the screen, scroll down to textures, just under rendering, and adjust that to nearest. Now I'm gonna click close, and as you can see, wow, crystal clear. It's as crisp as a tin pan. Is everyone here? Everyone up to date? Alright, alright. Is that Alright, so let's start practicing some of what we learned. Let me Alright everyone, so I'm gonna move on, and we're gonna start by creating a level. Alright? So this is going to be quite simple, quite nice. I'm going to open up Godot. Again, you all already have Godot open, I just have to reopen it every single time. Okay, click on this button. As I mentioned before, this is the new scene button. That plus icon all the way up there, right? Click on that, and it'll open up a new scene. This time, for the root of the scene, I want you to choose 2D. Alright, click on that 2D scene and it'll open up here, no 2D. You can rename this to the level, which is what we're making right now. So I'll just name it test level. Like that, click enter. And as a child for the scene, I want to put in what was it called? I want to add in a static body 2D. This one right here. So search up static body 2D. It's similar to the character body 2D, but it's designed not to move. So grab that static body 2D. I'm going to click enter. So we have it there. Similar to the character body 2D, it needs we need a sprite so we can actually see what the level looks like. We can get some art in there, and we want to add in, somewhat of a collision shape, right? So we can define where the collisions are. So I'm gonna click the plus button again. Let's add in that sprite. SPR sprite 2D. I'm gonna click back on the static body 2D to click plus again, and instead of using a collision shape 2D. Alright, I want you to look here. I'm not going to use a collision shape 2D this time. I want to use a collision polygon 2D. And I'll explain why in a bit. So select collision polygon 2D and click create. Alright? This will be slightly different from the collision shape 2D because it allows us to make weirder shapes. So first, I would recommend you to go back to the sprite 2D. And we want to drag in, I have a folder for this, level, and I want you to drag in this test level.png into texture, right? So let's drag that in. There. Now we can start to see a bit of a pre-made level here. Alright? So, one thing I want you to do, now I just want you to adjust this value here. Alright? I want you to turn off this centered button. Okay, so turn off centered, so it goes down a bit. On the sprite 2D, turn off centered. Okay, does anyone have any issues or is it all, don't have any, if anyone has any issues, you can raise your hand. We'll have someone come around. Alright. Okay, so now we can go back to this collision polygon 2D and you can see these little buttons out here that will allow you to shape the collisions of your level. Let me show you what that means. So if I click this green icon up here and I zoom in down here, I can actually turn on these buttons to like make it snap to the pixel. And I click that, I can start to drag out this level. So you can do that you can start doing that now. Take a while. But just start bit by bit covering the level. If you do mess up, it's okay, you can adjust it later. It doesn't have to be perfect the first time. Alright. Yeah, and once you finish, you'll just show a bunch of like polygons like this. It'll look kind of crazy. If there's anything you messed up, you can just drag it out.
I've seen something very creative. Maze for kids.
All right, brothers and sisters, are you done with that? Do you need a bit more time? All right, I'll give you a bit more time.
I have the greatest idea, I guess that's it. It's a bit of a game. It's a bit like an awesome game. Again. That's an idea.
All right, I just want to point out something you can look at here. That I've actually got the sprite 2D and the collision polygon 2D as children of this static body 2D, right? And so you can actually nest children, and that's kind of like what forms the tree structure. You know, you have one root, and then you have more nodes off from that, and then you'll have even more nodes off of that. So that's pretty much the level done. We can just click Control S to save the level. I'm just going to call it test level, enter, and now we've got the level done. Also here now, I want you to click this play button, and it's going to bring this pop-up again. Remember when I mentioned this? You can click the play button and this pop-up will come out, and I want you to click select current. So I'm going to click select current, and as we can start to see the level here, right? Nice. All right. I'm going to close that for now, and I'll bring back up the PowerPoint. Okay. Let us. Are we ready to move on to the next slide? Okay. Some people are there, so we need more time. I'll give you all a few minutes. All right. Does anyone need any more time, or are we good? Is there any more time? You can just raise your hand. All good? All right. Let's move on to the next task. It's very simple, similar to this. We are going to create an enemy. None of the code yet. We're just going to make the template for an enemy, and we'll program something into it later on. So, this one's way simpler. All you need to do is... That's not... Okay, there we go. All you need to do is... Okay, let's start by creating a new scene. Same as the player, just type in character body 2D. Get that in. You can rename it to enemy. Okay? Alright? So, let's now add a sprite. Just like the player, sprite 2D, And we can drag in, I have an image for the enemy down here. So over here there is, oh, there's a bunch of, there'll be one called enemy.png, I think. Drag that in there, or if not, use rock. I would recommend you use rock, don't use the other ones. That's all. Not meant to be there. So you should have this rock guy. Let me zoom into him. He's a little funny dude. Alright, choose the rock. I mean, you would die if you choose a different one. So yeah, now we have this rock here, and just like the player again, we can click on the enemy, click plus, and type in collision shape 2D. I'm gonna click this one, and I'm gonna add the shape similar to like we did for the player. This time instead of capsule, I think I'll just pick circles. This is a very round guy. You can drag it, something like that. Yeah, that looks about right. Doesn't have to be exactly precise because chances are your player isn't gonna notice it. Something like that. And if you're done, that's the enemy. That's it. Pretty simple. Just get the character body to be, the sprite, and the collision shape. It's the same as the player. We're not delving into code yet, so this is the general kind of foundation for NPCs. We'll give you a bit more time. And we'll load back up the presentation. Everyone good? Are we ready to move on? Or does someone want a bit more time? Oh, right, okay, that's cool. So let's move on. Now, we can start to put things together, right? I want you to focus on, the fact we can put scenes into other scenes. So we have the level, and we can drag our player into the level, and we can drag the enemies into the level. And I'm also dive a bit into adjusting the window size because it's very small right now. It's all smudged to one side of the screen. So let me dive into that. I'm going to open up Godot. And, oh shoot, I haven't saved this yet. Okay, so I'm just going to save it as the enemy. That's good. And I click on this test level. What I can do now is, down here in the file manager, we have all the scenes, right? We have this folder full of scenes. We can start dragging in our player there. I like to put him up here. We can drag in the enemies as well. I'm going to put one down here, and I can put one over here as well. Alright? And so now, if we play the game, we can see the player and the rocks on this level, right? Since we use the pre-built script as well, I can use my arrow keys to move around the player. I can press spacebar to jump. Whoa, is that okay, yeah. I can jump, I can move around to mess around, I can hop onto the enemy, I think. Or get blocked. Oh, there we go. I can also full screen this. As you can see, if I click this, it doesn't really make it any bigger, unfortunately. but we will work on that. I'll give you. Yeah, does someone have this? Player, enemies. The enemies being stationary and not really interacting with you is a gameplay feature for the time being. Just gonna leave that as is. We will touch on that in a bit. Alright, I'm gonna move on. What I want to do now, this is just adjusting the settings so that you can zoom in completely, alright? So I'm just gonna tweak a few settings. Let's click on project up here, go to project settings, and I want you to go to window, right? Over here, you'll see the options viewport width and viewport height. For viewport width, I want you to key in the number 480, right? 480 for the width. And for the height, I want you to key in 320. Okay? 480, 320. Why? This is just the size that fits our current level. This fits the pixel art that we have, and matches the scale that we want to have the player and the level at. If you use bigger sprites, if you use bigger art, you're not using pixel art, you want it to be a bigger number. But for this project, for the pixel art that we're using, 480 by 320. So once that's done, you should see, I don't know if it's so visible up here, but there'll be a little blue line surrounding this area, a little rectangle covering the level. And when you click play, you can see here, it completely covers the level. But it's still molecular, it's still minuscule. And if I click this, for a second it looks big, but then it goes back small, right? So let's fix that as well. We can go back to the previous screen with viewport width and viewport height. And down here, scroll down a little bit, you'll see this option stretch, set mode to viewport. The rest should be the rest you don't have to touch, aspect, scale mode, that's all fine. And once we run it, we can see it zooms full screen. It goes to the size of your screen. Now if I move my little character around, you can really see how jank this all is. Whoa, why the heck is the frame rate so choppy? Oh, it must be because I'm streaming on the laptop from you. Got one here? I'll bring back up the settings screen in case you missed it. Close that. Project settings. Over here, you want stretch mode to be viewport, and you want the viewport width and viewport height to be 480 by 320. All right, is everyone on track? Everyone good?
Here's a little bit like
Taking a bit of time on this, but fear not, for there is always a way. All right, is everyone done? All right, I'm gonna move on now. If anybody needs any help, just raise your hand. We'll have someone come and help you out. So, this is done. Let's go back to the PowerPoint because there's something I want to discuss. And that is enemy movement. Alright? The thing with enemy movement is that it's really complicated because that's practically AI, right? You're making your own AI. But it's not, it's not like you're in ChatGPT. You have to think about the objective, what kind of enemy do you want to make? Because you can make it very simple or very complicated. For example, you could make something that just moves straight towards a point, right? You can set a random point in the map, and the enemy will just start moving there. That's one option. Another option is to have the enemy follow the player, right? You can just say, so let's say my friend Sujay there, he's the player, and I'm the enemy, I see him and I just start following him all the way. That's another option. Another option is to have the enemy navigate obstacles. Because you can have a dumb enemy that, let's say I want to walk that straight line, I see this table and I just keep walking here, right? And I can't move around it. Or you can have the enemy be able to look at its environment and say, okay, I have to go around this table. And another very simple option is just having a Goomba, right? A Goomba just walks in a straight line. If it hits the wall, oh no, I move around, walk the other way, hit the wall again, oh no, I go around the other way. Very simple. That's what we're going to do. Because AI can be crazy complex. That we have a documentation at the end with a bunch of sources. If you really want to delve into AI, I wouldn't recommend it if you're a beginner and you want to make a game for the game jam, but you can. But we're going to start with a Goomba. So first, let's do a bit of problem solving, right? We have a little rock over here, right? What kind of variables do you think he's going to have? What kind of variables do you think this rock will contain?
X and Y for location.
Hmm?
X and Y for
Yes, X and Y for location, that's one. You? Did you raise your hand? Oh. Do you have any more ideas? Hmm? Signal, not exactly. That's a feature of Godot that we'll touch on later on. Yeah, speed. Exactly, speed, right? That's another one. That was the next one I had in my presentation. Yeah? How it reacts to collisions? I wouldn't say that's a variable. Well, no, it kind of is. But it's not the one I'm looking for. I'll just finish it up. Speed and, oh, do you have one? Coordinates, yeah, that's one as well. You mentioned X and Y. Position is there.
Damage there.
Damage, exactly. We have that as well. I have this in a very particular order and I can't really adjust it, so I'm just going to list it down. We have speed, direction was another one. Which way is it moving? I also had health. I also had damage, right? Now, we're not going to need health and damage if we want to calculate where is it moving, how fast is it moving. But we can take our speed and direction to get a bit of an idea of how should we program this enemy. Let's start, okay, we can start by having it just move at a set speed, right? You can move at a set speed, facing a certain direction. And then after that, you can get an if statement. If I collide, right? If the enemy collides with the wall, it changes direction. So if this is a yes, we change direction, and you continue moving at a set speed, but now in a different direction. If not, then it just continues moving at that set speed. That's how we're gonna go through this Goomba movement AI. And to do that, we're gonna have to start touching GD script. Now, there's a few points I want to give out for GD script. One is, it's a new programming language, but it is very, very similar to Python and TypeScript, right? very similar to Python and TypeScript, and there are a ton of in-engine functions in GDScript. Well, what that means is, you know how I mentioned there's a ton of nodes? Each node has a specialized purpose, and for that, they all have their own functions, they all have their own like inbuilt variables, which make it easier for you to program. It makes it more efficient when you compile the game, but it is going to be a bit hard because it is going to be a bit hard to memorize because there's so much information out there. Which is why, you know, as I've mentioned before, I would really recommend you to like understand how to like search up functions that you want to use. Just you can use Godot. You can use the Godot documentation, which is really good. You can just search it up on Google, go through Reddit. I wouldn't recommend ChatGPT because good question. Good question. There are some things it's good at. Let's say you have this one thing you want to implement, you don't know how to break it down. You can ask ChatGPT, okay, I want to implement, you know, I want to have my character fly. How can I do that? It can say, okay, maybe you should have like some flying button and then have that like adjust the Y velocity of the character. But anything regarding code, anything regarding any specifics about Godot will be wrong because, like I mentioned earlier, Godot changes so damn fast. It changes after I finish, it got a major update after I finished this presentation, which was very frustrating for me earlier today when I had to change everything up. But for example, you can just go to the Godot documentation. You can just search up a certain node. For this is the character body 2D that we used earlier. And over that, it'll have a list of all of the different variables inbuilt into the node. Something like velocity, you know, you would think you have 3 directions, you have to make your own velocity variable. Godot actually has it inbuilt and it puts that into a bunch of pre-built functions, which makes it easier, but also a bit confusing if you've never used Godot before. It has a list of all the different functions, which is crazy, that's a giant list. But all of this makes things easier. You know, you can just check, is it on the floor? Instead of checking if the Y velocity, if the Y value is decreasing, you can just ask, hey, am I on the floor? Hey, am I on the wall? Even movement, you don't have to really program movement. You just type in move and slide and the thing just moves. You know? So there's a ton of these variables which makes it more intuitive, but you really have to get used to just searching up how to do stuff. You can click on any of these, for example, with velocity earlier, if you click on that, you'll have a description here. This is what velocity does, this is what it's about, this is the variable type it's in. And really get used to just searching up how to do stuff. So, let's give the enemy some movement. I'm going to create a new script and I'm going to start doing some programming. It's going to be very simple, it's going to be very intuitive. You know, it's similar to Python, so a lot of it reads out like English. But just pay attention very closely if you're new to programming. So let's open up Godot. That's Discord again. Let's open up Godot and go to the enemy scene. From here, we can click on the enemy. Make sure you click on the root node, which you should have named enemy, the character body 2D. And we want to click this plus script icon here. This time, we don't want to have this. We can turn the built-in script off. And we can just, and we can click create. Bam. Well, this is the same movement script as the character. Okay. So now that we're here, there's going to be some stuff that I want you to delete because we don't want the enemy to move around as we click to move around the character. So over here, var direction equals to input.get access UI left, UI right. Delete that. Sure. We can have this one here. You know what? Really, just delete all of this. Delete all of this except for the part that says add the gravity. Right? Delete all that. So we'll have add the gravity and move and slide. You can leave those in. We can delete jump velocity as well because we don't want this enemy to jump. Delete that. So yeah, this is kind of at its This is very raw. This is a very simple. This is like the raw meat of it, right? Really like nothingness. So something that I should explain is what is this function here? Function underscore physics process delta float arrow void, right? Very simply, this physics process function runs the code inside of it every single frame. Now the way a game works is that it has something called a game loop, where you have a bunch of scripts and it just runs through it again and again and again and again. Each time it goes to the end, that's called one frame. And so it'll refresh that as many times as possible, and each time it runs that, it'll run this code that you put into physics process. Alright? This delta just calculates the time between the time between this frame and the last frame, and it's useful to like standardize movement. Because for example, if you have someone who has a crazy PC and they're at 1000 FPS, and you have a person with like a rubbish PC at 10 FPS, you don't want the guy with 1000 FPS to like press W and then the guy just rockets up to the moon, right? And so this delta calculates the amount of time between this frame and the last frame, and by multiplying that into, for example here, multiplying this into get gravity, it allows you to regulate it so that it adjusts it by the second. Instead of like jumping up like crazy, the 10 FPS and the 1000 FPS guy will have the character move at the same speed. So I want to start adding movement. We have speed there, it's already been made for us.
So delta was the time between two frames.
Yes. So now we can create a variable called direction. Okay. All right. So we have direction there. I can put in a colon to designate what kind of variable it is. So for this, I'm going to put in vector2. And vector2 is just a variable that contains two decimal values, two floats. It gives it an x and a y. So I can do equals to, I'm going to put in vector2 again, and I'll just put in a bracket, or let's say vector2. And then I'll put in a few brackets, and I can just put in two values. I can say like 0.5, comma 0.5. And so now the directions pointing at 0.5 on the x and 0.5 on the y. Now if I do this little script that says velocity equals to speed, speed multiplied by direction. If I type that in and I save it, if I press the movie icon so it runs only the enemy script, not the level, if I click this, you can see the enemy just move straight down like that. Alright? That's not what we want, of course. We want it to be sort of a Goomba, right? We want a little funny Goomba, a Gloomba. So I can delete this, and I'm gonna put vector2 dot, and in all caps, RIGHT, vector2 dot right. This just sets it at facing right with a value of 1, and it just creates like a standard, it's a standard direction. I can create a variable for health and for damage as well. But like we're not using them yet, so it's okay, we'll leave it for later. Although based on the time, I don't know if there's going to be a data for that. So we'll just leave it as this for now, right? We have speed, we have direction. And now if we run the game, we will get the character, just moving right. So we want to check if it collides with anything. So over here, after gravity, I want to add a little script, right? So, pay attention. Wait, do you need a bit more time? By the way? Or can I move on?
2 minutes.
Okay, I'll give you a few minutes. I'll give you a few minutes to get to this. Does anyone need any help? Is everyone good? All good? All vibes? Everyone moving? All right, gang. Let me tell you what's up. So to make the direction change from the collision, what you have to do now is sorry, I might be going a bit fast because it is a bit late. If is on wall, right? Thank you. If it's on wall, this will check if your guy is touching a wall. It checks if there's a collision, right? If it's on wall, you want to adjust the direction. So that is I'm gonna. You can make it as efficient as you want, but I'm gonna make it very clear. There's this. You can do if, right? Direction is equal to vector 2 dot right. All right. Put in a colon, and you can just type in direction equals to vector 2 dot left. You know, make sure you have this indentation here. It's similar to Python that way. It's very important. So make sure that's indented. And then, you know, if it isn't, so you can just type in else. That means the direction is left, right? As it crashes into the wall, the direction is already facing left. So you can just set direction to right. Alright, so now that we have that, over here, instead of one last thing is instead of velocity equals to speed times direction, what it does is velocity is a vector 2, has two numbers, direction is a vector 2. This replaces the value that gravity gives it. So I want you to only adjust the x value. So set velocity dot x equals to speed times direction dot x. Now with programming, there's a lot of different ways to come to the same conclusion. This is how I am doing it for the workshop. And now if you play, you press this play button, it'll go back to the main scene, which is the level. And you can see them just jumping around in the side there. I'm gonna lower down the speed a bit, because this is a bit wild, even for me, right? You can just edit the speed value here. Make it like, I'm gonna make it 100. And so now if I play, it'll start bouncing around. Oh, shoot. Press play, start bouncing around. That guy's still jazzing it up. Alright, okay, I'm gonna give you a second for this, and I'm gonna move on. Okay, that's a second, so I'm gonna move on. So, how much time do we have? Ooh. Okay, so for this last part, because of the time constraints, I'm gonna go through it a bit fast. Oh shoot, wait. 20 minutes. Okay, so the next step was going to be attacking the player, right? With attacking the player, there is a bit of stuff. There is a bit of stuff. Do we have enough time? I'd say let's give it a shot. Let's give it a shot, alright? But I need everyone to be quiet. I need everyone to be a bit silent. And I need you to really pay attention and follow me every step of the way, right? We're gonna try and implement attacking the player. So, the first thing is I want to introduce a new node called area 2D, right? Let's go to the enemy, click this 2D to go back to the main scene. Over here, click plus and type in area 2D. This one right here, area 2D. What does the area 2D node do? It allows you to detect within an area if there's anyone coming in or out. It detects an area. So I'm gonna grab that area 2D, and then I'm gonna add, like we mentioned before, we can add in a collision shape 2D because it gives you, the area. It gives you a range to detect stuff. And I'm gonna set this to does this say circle? Circle shape. So I'm gonna drag it, make it a little big. I want to make it bigger than that previous collision shape. So I'm gonna drag that, make it a little bigger. not too big. Yeah, something like that, just very bigger, right? And I want you to rename this area 3D to attack area. That's where it's going to attack the player. Make that one word. So we have this attack area now. And if you go here, there's something called collision, right? And, oh god, it's covered by my mouse. There's something called collision. There'll be an option here called layer and an option here called mask and a ton of numbers, all the way up to 32. Layer and mask, right? I'm going to explain that. This is what we call collision layers, right? And it allows you to detect, to adjust what you detect, you know? You want to collide with the world, but maybe you don't want to collide with a coin. You will change the collision layer on the coin, or you change it so you only detect the world, so you can walk straight into the coin. That's an example of a collision layer, right? I'll bring up this, and so I want to discuss the collision layer by opening this up. So go to project settings, do this along with me. Project settings, scroll down, and all the way at the bottom here, you can see something called layer names, right? It's much simpler than it seems. Just click on 2D physics, and there'll be a bunch of stuff. It comes up layer 1 all the way to 32, and there'll be a blank box here, right? You can give this blank box a name. So I'm gonna type in the blank box. Follow along with me. Layer 1 is world. Layer 2 is enemy. Layer 3 is player. So can you kind of see what I'm doing? We have 3 different layers here, and I'm giving them a name, right? What I can do now is assign this to the world, to the player, to the enemy. So with each of them, I can tweak what they touch. Yeah, that sounds a bit weird, but you know, I can tweak what they interact with, what they detect. And so I'm gonna close this, and first we're gonna go through the collision of the player and the level. And I think the best, and I have a pretty intuitive way of looking at it here, right? Collisions have 2 sides to them. You have the layer and the mask. The layer is pretty much like asking, what am I, right? What am I? Am I the player? Am I the enemy? Am I the world? There you can add even more. Am I a pickup object, for example? Then there's another one, which is the mask. What do I interact with, all right? Not dreams hit single mask. What do I interact with? Mask is saying like, what do I look at, right? If the enemy wants to attack the player, it's not going to look at the world, oh, this is the player, and then the world just dies. That's not what we want. We want the enemy to look at the player, detect it, say, okay, this is the player that I want to attack, and deal damage. And so, for the player, we can, for the player's collision, we can say, oh, he is, you know, oh, they're the player, right? For the player's collision, they're the player, and they interact with the world. So it's like saying, for the player, I am the player, and I'm touching the world, you know? I detect the world, because I don't want to like go into the world, I'm colliding with the world. For the world, for example, with the world, for example, the world is on the world, but it doesn't have to interact with anything, it just stays there. Things interact with it. But the world itself does not interact with others. So we can go back into Godot, and the way we implement this is by going to our player, selecting this top node, the root node here, the character body 2D, and going into collision. Now this is a bit confusing because there's 2 tabs called collision. Make sure you pick the one that's under collision object 2D. So this collision, and it'll show a bunch of boxes. The other one looks a bit like this. That's my mouse. That's the wrong one. It just says safe margin. You want this one with all the boxes. And if you hover over the numbers, it'll say what layer that is. You know, if I hover over 1, it'll say world. If I hover over 2, it'll say enemy. If I hover over 3, it'll say player. We know what the layer and what the mask is So we know that the player should be on the player layer, and we need to select the world. And we know we want the player to collide with the world only. So let's select that. Now we can save. Alright? I'm gonna move to the world now. Now in the world, this time I want to click on this one, the static body 2D, because that is the physics object, the object which like handles the physics and collisions for this area here, right? This static body 2D will have this collision option over here. So if I drag my mouse on that and open this, you can see all of this. Again, it should be on the world layer, but it shouldn't mask anything. Because it doesn't detect anything. It just stays there for other things to detect it. Alright? And for the last one, the enemy will be a bit complicated. This is because the enemy now, you'll notice if you click on the attack area, there's some collision there. But then if you click on the character body 2D, the enemy, the root node all the way at the top, that also has collision. So now there's two layers and masks for the same scene. How do we handle that? We can bring it back to our allegory from earlier, where collisions have, what am I and what do I interact with? And we can split the enemy, we can split those down to their individual aspects. Because one of it, with the character body 2D, one of it is for collision. And when it comes to collision, the enemy is on the enemy layer and it interacts with the world, right? The enemy is on the enemy layer. I wanted it to interact with everything. So it won't walk into it can touch the player, but it won't go through the player and it won't go through other enemies. Because if not, all the enemies will like coagulate into one. It's a bit weird. So it's nice to have them like separated, right? But with the area 2D, the reason why that's different is because we've designated that as the attack area. And for the attack area, we don't want the player to like collide with the attack area or to detect the attack area. So the attack area is nothing itself, but it detects you, right? The attack area is nothing. There's no layer, but it interacts with the player. It will detect if the player's there. It's like there's a booby trap. There's a little friggin' laser over there, and I walk past it. The laser's like nothing, right? You don't see it. It's not there, but it'll detect me. And that's what the attack area is. That's the aim of the attack area. So we go back into Godot. If we head back into Godot really quickly, we can go into the enemy. This one up here with the character body 2D. As I mentioned before, it handles physics, collisions, and movement. We can make sure this is on the enemy layer, and it masks the other ones. You can hover it and see the name of each individual layer. Whereas we go to the attack area, and it will be on, we don't want it to be on anything, because the attack area isn't detectable, but it detects the player. So we want it to mask the player. That's on layer 2. And so this, now we have the enemy now we have the enemy and it's able to detect you. The last thing we have to do, the last final bit we have to do, the last final bit we have to do is we can go into node. Okay, this is going to be a bit complicated. Over here at this window, at the properties window, up there you can see inspector. I want you to click node next to inspector. And over here is what are called signals. And it's a way Godot allows you to send information back to other nodes, right? So from here I want to click body entered, right? Body entered. When the player enters the area, it will trigger this signal and run this script. And I want to just put very simple, I want to do a bit of debugging. Just put print, I can't spell, print, player, HUD, right? Save that. And now, when I run the game, I'm gonna minimize it a bit so it's not so big. I'm gonna minimize it, and let me use this mouse actually. So you can see that there. When I walk into the enemy, it will say down here, player hurt, player hurt, player hurt, player hurt, player hurt. So now we're getting the detection that the enemy is attacking the player. And when the enemy touches the player, we get this notification the player is hurt. Alright? Okay? I'm going to close this, and I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint, and I'm going to finish things up. So, once again, I want everyone to pay attention, and I want complete silence. All right? And I'm going to explain what the heck did we just do, right? I'm going to explain collision layers again and signals. So collision layers, right? We pulled up this thing earlier and we labeled it player enemy world. We designated a few layers so that we could identify what is what. The enemy, as you notice, it didn't touch the world and say, oh, I'm attacking the player. It only did that when it was touching the player because of the collision layers. All these nodes, static body 2D and character body 2D and area 2D, which we've looked at so far, they all have collision shape, right? Collision shape 2D or collision polygon 2D. They all need this area and they all have their own ways of interacting with the world and they all use these collision layers. You can edit them through this menu here. You can choose the layer and choose the mask. You can choose multiple and you can choose none. And I think the best way that I've thought of it is that the layer is what I am and the mask is what I detect. Alright? Now signals, we very, very briefly touched on. It runs a function when something is triggered. If I draw a diagram of like a little machine here, and it has a button and a light, a signal is you touching this button and sending up something, sending code to the machine to activate the light. So I have this here. If I go and hit this button, oh shoot, what the hell did I? If I click this button, then the light will turn on, right? And it does that based on me clicking it, based on me triggering that button. I trigger that button, sends a signal up to the machine, which sends a piece of code which tells the light to turn on. From what we just did, we can see this area to be as this area here, this little slightly bigger circle, and it has an icon, this kind of like Wi-Fi icon, which shows it has a signal, which goes up to the script. And in the script, it runs this function, which has this little kind of like door icon, showing that a signal is connecting to that. Does that make sense? Good? Nice. Okay, I was gonna put a 5-minute break, but it's 8:25. So I just want to briefly, I have a little like exit statement. I just want to briefly cover that, right? So let's review what we've learned. We got to understand the general layout of Godot and its interface. We got to understand what nodes are and how you can combine them to form scenes and combine scenes to form a game. We understood a bit of signals. We understood a bit of collision layers and masks. And that was about it. There is a lot more to Godot and a lot more to cover. But we do have, a lot of documentation, and we have a lot of more resources after this for you to look it up. And there's we have a lot of tutorials that we recommend, and hopefully that will help you and you can go through it at your own pace. You can also reach out to me if ever you want. But one thing that I want to reiterate again, for I think like the 100th time now, is that Godot, it's.
We've run out of time. There's no one stopping us from staying.
Okay. Wait, I'll wrap this up. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up. So for those of you who have to go, you can go. If you want to stay a little longer, I don't mind as well. We have a lot more content that I stayed up till 12 a.m. to do. But yeah. So if I go here, this button, this is not working. Oh my God. Okay, hold on. Okay. So Godot is big, right? As I mentioned before, you can't memorize everything because Godot has like hundreds of nodes. Each of them have their own variables. Each of them have their own functions. And it's really important for you to keep an open mind, keep asking for help, and keep searching out tutorials. I would recommend you not to search tutorials like what is Godot, but search up like how do I create a specific feature. Let's say you want to create like an action game. How do I create like good movement in Godot? How do I get weapons? You search each individual feature and try to understand it instead of just copying a tutorial. Now, things to keep in mind for your next game, right? Aim small, especially if you're doing the game jam, right? But even if you're not doing the game jam, aim small. A general guide is the first game idea that comes up, cut it down by 90%, then another 90%, then another 90%, because this is not a hyperbole, because you really want your game to be very small. Keep it to 1 or 2 mechanics, right? Don't do 3. I think that's a bit too much. Keep it to 2 mechanics. And when you have that small project, you're able to actually be able to get your hands in the nitty-gritty, touch the dirt, touch the mud, become a miner, join the coal mines. Really get yourself into every aspect of the game and make sure that every aspect of the game is, good to some extent, It doesn't have to be perfect, but keeping it small allows you to actually go through the entire process of making the game. Another thing is that you should, in general, finish everything you start. Because you learn more from forcing yourself to complete a project than 100 unfinished projects. Even though that's what I have. Another thing, don't underestimate how long it takes to pick UI. I did not include any UI stuff in this workshop, even with all the stuff that I didn't get to cover, because it's ridiculously annoying. Everyone who touches UI hates it. You can trust me on that. I am majoring in UI UX, and it is bad, especially in games. It's really bad. You don't want to program UI. If you're not in the jam, it'll be nice. I would recommend making a game that's only UI, so you know how horrible it is. That'll be something like a visual novel, but yeah. And lastly, reach out to others. In this uni, we have the Game Makers Club. It's really big. There's so many forums outside of university as well, just random people on Discord. But the more you keep in contact with other people, the more motivated you'll feel and the more happy you will be making games. And yeah, lastly, don't focus on making a perfect game. Focus on the process, as in focus on just making, enjoying the process of making a game and seeing random code move things to life. Enjoy that process instead of focusing on making a game that people will like, and because that's how you learn. All right. Thank you very much. That is the end of the workshop. I don't think I would be very flattered if any of you wanted to stay to learn more of the content, but I would advise against it because I think the next chunk will take another 1.5 hours based on how things have been going. So yeah, I think I have it here. You can join the Discord. You can join the Game Makers Club Discord. My name is Thaha on there. Because my name is Thaha. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to everyone there. You can join CISSA, TMC. Please fill in the feedback form. These are the few events. So there's the Game Jam this weekend. There's going to be another Game Jam later. And every week there's a social gathering between the Game Makers Club to continue talking about things going on.
Yeah, just to add, some of you guys may already know, but just a reminder that CISSA is actually recruiting right now. So if you're interested in, maybe giving a workshop of this giving a workshop like this yourself, or helping out with hackathons or any of our other events, be sure to check out our Instagram or Facebook. You can find all the information for recruitment there. We've got a bunch of different subcons that you can join. And yeah, we always encourage people to join. We're very keen to take on more people in our teams. And I mean, obviously I'm biased, but I think it's a lot of fun. But yeah, do consider it. All right.
Guys, one final message, right? one final message. Can we all get a group photo? We can all just stand around over here in this corner. Let's all take a group photo for fun, so I can show my mom. Thank you. Yep. Thank you. Yeah, we will. I have time. All good, all good. Oh my god, who took the photo? I didn't think this through. Abdul. No, Abdul.
Hey, Aiden. Oh, wait, am I too?
I don't know why you said unity.